this,
so cool, huh?
the sign isn't in there permanently, although I suppose if I start getting a lot of questions about it, I might install it on there. Anyways, I guess in terms of the features aren't really a lot compared to a regular car. But one of the things that is kind of nice about this car versus a conventional motorcycle is you have the ability to store stuff in the front. You can probably do 2 or 3 reasonable bags of groceries in the front. The other thing that you can do is in this seat, you could put hooks in the back and actually have a backpack in addition to that. The vehicle, in terms of weight, capacity, is a little light. It was built to accommodate 210 pounds of person in cargo. So if you're over 210 pounds, you know, there may be ways of reinforcing it. I think one of the reasons that it might have that weight limitation is primarily this thing here. And if you reinforce that, you might be able to get above that limitation. The other thing is that the seat's a little smaller than your normal seat, but still, you know, it's sufficient to get the job done. As an optional feature, in the original plans, there was no reverse. But there is a reverse in this model, and I think if you're going to build a model, you absolutely want to have reverse, because it is very, very convenient. One of the other things that you can do is you can prop it up to get into it. And that is actually how you do it. You prop it up, you get into it, and then there's some little clamps if you want to turn the clamps here. And this was actually an innovation of mine, of moving the clamp location from here over to here. And that made the clamps move a little smoother when I was going over bumps. And actually, you can also prop up this cowling for servicing. The seat is adjustable. It's just like a regular car seat. You can go back and forth. You can also take it out. And the reason that's important is because if you wanted to service it, what you do is you take this little guy out here. And then what you could do is you could pop it up here, and there's a little service stick. And that makes it a lot more convenient to replace batteries if this thing isn't just, you know, falling down on you all the time. If you wanted to service it further, this whole thing actually can also be unscrewed from the front. You can take it off entirely. Although that's not necessary for taking the batteries out. You can actually have the batteries out before that. The batteries themselves are regular car batteries, but they are a marine grade car battery, which means you can have a lot more of a discharge cycle to them. They're also using a glass mat technology, which means that they're also a little lighter than you'd expect from a car battery of that size. And anything you can do to lower the weight on a vehicle like this will give you more range. This obviously is the back and forth thing here. This here is the speed controller. There's a little speed control on the stick there, and what that does is that regulates the amount of battery energy going into the motor down here. You go faster, you go slower, and that's pretty much how it is. And if you reverse it, then the energy goes in reverse, and you reverse. This here's an emergency brake, or not an emergency brake, a parking brake, so that it doesn't, you know, just roll all over the place. Also, this is a 48-volt battery pack. But a lot of these lights and little signal lights and things run on, you know, 12 volts, just like anything else does. So in order to go from 48 volts down to 12 volts, there's a little box over here, which is a DC to DC converter, converts from 48 down to 12. What's really kind of nice about it, though, is that you have a lot of battery capacity to this, so you don't necessarily have to use it for the motor. If you wanted to, say, like, go to one of these places with, you know, like a car show or something like that, and you want to have the loudest stereo at the car show, you now have the energy for the loudest stereo at the car show. And the smallest car, too. What you could also do is you could also use this if you had an inverter which converted from, say, 48 volts to 120 volts. You could also use it as a reasonable power supply. If you had a power outage and you was only would be for a couple hours, but you're concerned about your food going bad or something like that, you could just, you know, plug your refrigerator into the battery pack and keep it going. In terms of charging the car, there is a wall charger, this little guy right here, and for an average charge, probably need 6 hours, maybe 8 hours if you really depleted the batteries to charge up. And the charger plugs into a charging port outside the vehicle. And the reason I did that was because, first of all, it simplified the wiring a little bit and I didn't have to figure out where to mount the charger. Second of all, if I wanted to switch over to power here, I could. And it would just literally be, unplug that, plug this in, there you go. And what's kind of neat about that is that, say you had a situation like maybe a ice storm in the North Country, or you had a Katrina type situation where you had infrastructure around you that was not going to have AC power for weeks at a time. Having a solar power option might not be a bad option, because you go out to a gas station and they can't pump gas without power, and if they don't have a generator, well, they're kind of out of luck. So it's, potentially it could be a vehicle that would be useful in that type of situation. Or, God forbid, if we had an economic situation where you couldn't buy gas, or it was just totally out and the lights were out, or at least those options. So that's basically the main features of the vehicle. There are a lot of optional features that, actually there is one other feature too. How many people here have taken their car to have their brakes serviced? How much was that?
Too much.
Too much? Hundreds? Easily? 1,000? These guys right here, you can service yourself. Literally, if you have the skills to maintain your own bicycle, you detach this cable, you take the wheel off, the wheel's light enough that you can heft it around yourself. You take out the little cap there, you can change the pad yourself. The pads are, $12. You put them back in, you reattach that, tighten it up, you're done. You do it yourself in your garage, you don't have to take a day out from work or anything, and you spent $12. So, that was also a major thing with my other vehicle. It just had all kinds of things that were killing me. And there's just so many things that are not on this vehicle. And if they're not on the vehicle, they're 100% reliable. In terms of future features, one of the things that I'm looking at doing is to make wiring harnesses a little easier to install. The wiring harnesses in here are a little bit messy, and one of the reasons is that in the instructions you're modifying an existing motorcycle wiring harness, and you're stringing all the wires all through the vehicle. And once you do that, you really can't take this top off and this bottom without a lot of problems. So what I did was if you want to go to the camera right here, every wiring harness in here is detachable. And what that means is that if you wanted to get to the frame or something like that, what you could do is you could take the canopy off, you just detach 4 connectors, and you're done. You can take this cowl off, you can get to everything. And so one of the products that I'm thinking about doing is to develop a wiring harness that is detachable and is specific to this vehicle. Another potential product would be to develop a rear covering for it. Probably a fabric covering. And what that would do is that would maybe extend the driving a little bit longer too. So if you had a lot of, maybe sideway road spray or something like that, you wouldn't be quite as wet. And that, I don't even know if that's really necessary, because in the testing that I've done so far, roadway spray doesn't seem to be that big an issue, but it could be. And if it is, well, maybe there's a little market for it or something like that. And obviously you can also put in, car radios, or basically whatever you wanted to put into a regular car. So it's simple. It's really transportation. It's broken down to its simplest level. And I think if you wanted a renewable energy vehicle that could go 50 miles an hour, probably you could not be much cheaper than something like this. So there we are. Any questions or anything?
How much have you had it on the road? Or?
It is going to be roadway legal probably next week.
Oh.
I looked at I consulted with the people at the DMV, and it didn't look like there were any issues with that. I have actually ridden it on roads that didn't have traffic on them, and I've already put 6 miles on it, so
Okay.
you know it does work, and it has been clocked at 52 miles an hour. So I do know that is possible. I don't know how long it's possible, and that's the type of thing that I'm going to be, you know, finding out is what the real limitations are of it. So, I guess that's it. I don't know if you're serving lunch yet or what. Were you thinking about